You know, I lied because I said we were going to take a quick break, and we are. Now, that's the truth, but I've got to ask you about politics in advertising. And I remember you wrote a letter to the paper after Governor Barber was inaugurated and his choice of ad agency. Now, I don't think it's a secret. Those of us in media know that there's a ad group that when the Democrats are in, they usually get the call. And when the Republicans are in, they get the call. Has it become so politicized? And if it has the state's branding image suffered as a consequence? I'm not an ad, I know a little bit about advertising. I've worked for ad agencies, but I'm not just blown away by what I see promoting our state. It's all Faulkner, Welty, you know, blues. It's the same old thing over and over.
Well, we'll get into it because The Fall of Adam, which is the yellow book
Your
over
novel.
here, the novel, is all about advertising and 3 Jackson advertising agencies chasing the state of Mississippi business.
Well, why don't we talk about that? That's a great segue. We can talk about that. Now, you're not going to get sued over this, or have you? It might be good for sales.
Well, it's interesting. It's making its way around the Wolf Oak building, and people are talking about it. I have some pretty strong ideas about how the state should be advertising, and there's a lot of them in there. So,
Well, let's you and I talk about it when we come back.
okay.
How about it? In fact, The Lonely Bull is playing right now by Herb Alpert. I'm Jack Chris. This is Profiles Mississippi Radio at Easy 100.1, 1032. Steve Hicks is our guest. We're going to talk about his novels when we come back. Stay with us. You know, that makes me want to either grab a sombrero and go out with the bulls or go get some Mexican food.
Well, Jack, I thought it was telling. We were talking about advertising, and you put on the Lonely Bull.
Well, yes, actually, it was all very well planned, quite methodical. We just want this to appear to be spontaneous, Steve. You're listening, rather, to Profiles Mississippi Radio. I'm Jack Chris, your host and publisher of Profiles Mississippi Magazine. We invite you to go to www.profilesms.com to read our blog, get some updates, and leave your comments. 25 before the hour of 11. We are joined in the studio for the hour by Mr. Steve Hicks. Steve, of course, is known as an advertising guru here in the city, and that's what we've been discussing the past half hour or so. But Steve also recently has turned his attention to becoming a novelist. Now, had you always wanted to write novels? Had you written fiction in the past? I mean, obviously, being in advertising, you do a little fiction writing, but
I think everyone wants to write a novel. I think it was Dorothy Parker that said every journalist has a novel in them, and that's probably the best place for it.
right.
But I did not get started until I was about 48, 49 years old. And I've thought about it.
So that was last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Been writing a year.
Right. But I'd done some false starts, and what happened was I was very afraid of the novel form. In that a radio spot, 60 seconds is about 150 words. 28 seconds is about 70 words. Small space print, the economy of words and the compression of it becomes critical with all you have to communicate in a short amount of words. And I was truly afraid that I was going to sit down and write the world's best 450-word novel. Well, I sat down and wrote a novel, and it was 250,000, which, as point of reference, is about Anna Karenina, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
It was a long, long one, and it was not very good. As a matter of fact, I'm still reworking that one. But I was just kind of goofing around, and 12 years ago, right about now, I had a very serious stroke, and it almost killed me. I couldn't read for a year, and it was not good. And they put me on all kinds of medication because I was an adrenaline junkie. And it was, okay, we're going to level off all of the curves. And it calmed me down. And suddenly I had the patience to do it. And I said, oh, Lil and I decided we were going to go to Florida for a month. And so I started writing, got up every day, wrote 1,500 words, started around 6 in the morning, worked till 11, and before long, there was a book.
So we can say, and I know this almost sounds hokey, but something good came from a health
Oh yeah,
problem,
Mhm.
something positive.
sure. And but that's where it came from, and I enjoyed it. But what I've really fallen in love with is rewriting. The book that you have on top of your stack, The Gleaner,
The Gleaner.
is a love story. It takes place in Port Jefferson, Mississippi, down between Vicksburg and Natchez. And by the time it went on the press, it had been rewritten 12 times. And I enjoyed it, and I hadn't looked at it for about a year, and I had to do a reading at my alma mater. And I got into it, and I said, this isn't bad. And that's 12 things doing it. And then I'd get to a section, and I go, you idiot, why did you write that?
Right.
I have a good friend that's an artist who says, the trick is knowing when it's done and then leaving it alone. But The Fall of Adam went through about 8 drafts. Horizontal Adjustments, which comes out in the fall, has gone through about 6. The Brotherhood of Man, which is my magna opus, is on about its 14th, and it's being totally rewritten.
Now you went the route of non-traditional publishing, and I do want to talk a little bit more about that. But did you try to go the conventional route
Yes.
by hiring an agent and sending manuscripts to,
Oh,
you
yes.
know?
I did the query agent thing, and I had one agent who was absolutely the wrong agent. She was a featherhead, and we lasted together about a month.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got a very good agent, Marion Young, of the Young Agency in New York. And I sent her The Fall of Adam, which she said, I love the way you write, but this is Guys and Dolls. She said, now Guys and Dolls is my favorite musical, but it's a saint and sinner story. And but what else have you done? So I sent her The Gleaner, which was titled differently than Shall We Gather at the River, and she said, we've got one. And she sent it out through the big 6 publishers, because there are 6 companies that control the publishing industry. And we had a real close miss with Warner. And wonderful letter from Warner to the agent saying, I was crying in the subway and people were looking at me. And
not because it was bad.
No, but it's a tearjerker.
Yeah. Okay.
But and so it came close, and so but she said we could go to smaller presses, but I can't make any money on smaller presses, and they're twice the work. And so I shelved everything, and a friend sent me a thing on Create Space, which is the publishing company I use. And
Through Amazon.
Right, it's a subsidiary. And it got me in. I don't have to print a large inventory of books. They're printed as they're ordered.
Now, do they do any editing, or do you have to?
Now, as a matter of fact, I even do my own typesetting on the inside, cover design, the whole thing.
All right, I'm going to ask you something, and I don't want you to be offended.
Okay.
Because I write too, and I've got a few books left in me. I've had friends and associates tell me, well, if it's good, don't self-publish because that looks tacky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so how do you answer that? And obviously you didn't feel that way.
No. Well, it's very simple. If you look at what's new in any given month, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, chances are it's a celebrity writing it or a long-established person.
Ghostwriter.
Yeah, no, a long-established writer, a John Grisham,
Okay.
a Greg Iles, people that have a name. Developing a name is tough. For someone to print nationally and get into the game distribution is an immense investment by the publisher. And they're not in the business of taking chances.